Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley, and every week we bring you the stories of people who are making life better for others, improving their communities locally, globally, and digitally. The Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley is a part of Rotary International, over 1 million people in 36,000 clubs around the world. And all of us are dedicated to service above self. That's the motto. In our particular case, we are interested in how service above self overlaps with innovation, education, and entrepreneurship, although anything cool is something that we will pay attention to. Today, we have speaking to us from the California Farmworker Foundation, Diana Silva. Diana is someone that I met as a part of work I was doing in the Central Valley with some schools down there, and was fascinated to find out just how innovative the approaches of the CFF are with regard to how to help people in need there. So we're excited to have her tell the story of that today. Diana, welcome to the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley. I hand the mic over to you.
Thank you so much, Russian, and thank you guys so much to the E-Club of Silicon Valley. It is an honor. As mentioned, my name is Diana Silva. I am the Director of Communications for the California Farmworker Foundation. This foundation is near and dear to my heart, as I'm a proud granddaughter of immigrant grandparents that came from Mexico to truly build that better future, that better life for their families, and also worked in the fields. My grandparents were both farm workers and truly are living the American dream here in the States. So honored to be here. Thank you so much, and to share our story about what the California Farmworker Foundation is achieving on the day-to-day to help build better futures for California farm workers. So before we get started, I want to introduce you guys to a few people that we get to work with on the day-to-day, our California farmers. So I would love to go ahead and have you meet Alma Moreno. Alma is a farm worker that lives in Fresno County, has been a farm worker for 15 years, works in the table grape industry. Meet Margarita Ortiz. She lives in Kern County, has been a farm worker for 25 years, and has also been a farm worker in various counties throughout the Central Valley. Last but not least, I want you to meet Karina. She's Tulare County, born and raised with her family, not born and raised, from actually from Mexico, but lives and resides in Tulare and has been a farm worker for 20 years, working in the blueberries, the berries, and also now in the valley for table grapes. So now that you've met some farm workers, I love to pose a question. Before we even get started learning about the foundation, I love to ask individuals to ponder the thought of how many of you have been impacted today, this morning, by farm workers. So while you ponder that thought, let me explain how you might have been impacted and you didn't even realize it, or you didn't even know. We all got up this morning from our comfy beds. We got ready. We had a delicious breakfast, maybe a cup of coffee and orange juice. Off we went to work by 8 or 9 a.m. And by that time frame, we've already started our morning. But how many of you really thought that you've already been impacted and touched by a farm worker? That morning bed that we got out of, the bed sheets, the blankets, they're most likely from a cotton blend that is harvested and picked by a farm worker. We all get ready in the morning, we take a nice shower. Some of those byproducts and the products that we use contain items that have been harvested from a farm worker. How about before we left for work or to start our day, we had something to eat? Maybe we consumed some oats, some fruit, a glass of orange juice, some coffee, all items and products and fresh produce that have been harvested and touched by a farm worker for us. So when we start our day at 8 or 9, we've already been impacted and touched by farm workers, and we may have not really realized it, the value and the importance of farm workers and what they do for our lives on the day-to-day. We here at the California Farmworker Foundation are a 501c3 nonprofit that's based out of Delano, California, and we are proud to say that we are serving in 6 counties throughout the state. That is in Kern, Tulare, Fresno, Madera, Kings, Santa Barbara, and Riverside. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our home roots, where it started in Kern County. Our history. We were founded in 2016, but we were known as CVFF, Central Valley Farmworker Foundation. There we were founded by a group of agriculturalists that really wanted to change the trajectory of what it meant to be a farm worker foundation, to help build and bridge the gap between our farmers and our industry, and also our farm working community. We wanted to help empower and bring the voice to farm workers, and that's where our agriculturalists, our founders, really wanted to help to create and shift this narrative of truly assisting farm workers with their needs and for them and for their families. Our home roots began in Delano, California. That's right off the beautiful 99. And in 2019, our founders realized that we needed to make a shift. And that shift was not just serving the Central Valley, but to serve statewide, the whole state of California. So in 2019, we did a name change from Central Valley to California Farmworker Foundation. What is our mission? Our mission is to help serve and support California farm workers by providing programs and services to better their quality of life. And here shortly, I'll get to share with you exactly what our focus, our initiatives, and what those programs and services are tailored to help just do that, build a better quality of life for farm workers. So in 2023, we've been able to reach over 90,000 farm workers statewide. During the pandemic, that number tripled. We were in front of over 200,000 farm workers during the pandemic on a day-to-day, reaching over 1,000 farm workers to help provide resources, PPE, COVID, and testing. But last year, we were able to reach over 90,000 farm workers, and that is in the 6 areas in which we serve. Some achievements that the foundation has achieved throughout the years. Keeping in mind, we've only been around for a little over 6 years. In 2023, last year, we were announced the Community Organization of the Year by 3 chambers, the California Hispanic, Asian Pacific, and also African American Chamber of Commerce. In 2020, we were California Nonprofit of the Year by the California Association of Nonprofits, and something that's truly an achievement within the foundation. We have awarded over $250,000 in scholarships to children of farm workers. We're talking about first generation individuals that have parents that are farm workers that are truly trying to pursue a better quality of life, getting an education. And we as a foundation, it is important for us to go ahead and encourage that educational route. And there's nothing more meaningful than to be able to provide a scholarship. So within the last 4 years, we've been able to give out that dollar amount to children of farm workers here in California. So a little bit about how we operate. So we have community and statewide partnerships. That's how we were able to meet Rushton. We met him through a community outreach event. So in total, we have 125 partners that are divided up into 3 categories. We have community, we have health, and we have industry-related partnerships. We have over 100 growers throughout the state that we work with, and then we have 100 ambassadors. The ambassadorship program is key to our operation because something that differentiates us from other organizations is we actually have field access. So our outreach, our engagement takes place in the field, hand in hand directly with farm workers because of our partnerships that we've established with the growers and also our ambassador program. Our ambassador is defined as a representative of one of our grower partner companies that we get to work with. We establish a really great relationship with them. We build trust, and that allows us to then allow someone to be designated as an ambassador for that company. We work hand in hand with ambassador to fulfill our field outreach. So this is where we thrive. Who is CFF? What do we stand for? What is our focus and our initiatives? We're looking at our pillars of service. Everything that we do from a program to a resource falls within one of these 3 focus areas. So our first one, health and wellness. Our second one's going to be education and workforce development. And our third one here is going to be civil assistance. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take you through all 3 to see what outlines each pillar of service and what type of programs and resources we offer. So first one is health and wellness, which is huge. We work with individuals in farm working communities that lack major resources, whether it's the cost of insurance, whether it's the areas that they live in that do not surround them with this access. So for us, it was huge about partnering up with healthcare medical providers to provide and bring direct access to mobile clinics to help at least do the basic screenings, chronic illnesses. And so for us, this pillar of service has always been a top need amongst farm workers, and what we hear is a need for them. So under health and wellness, we do provide health fairs. We do those in each county in which we serve. We also, when we get invited to health cares, we're always there to help support as well, table, bring information, bring awareness, or bring one of our mobile clinics alongside one of our partners to come to those health fairs. We also do food distributions. And the next slide, I'm going to share with you guys how much food and poundage we get to serve every single year to help provide food access in the fields to ensure that our farm workers have the proper nutrients, have the food access, because the reality is they do a very physical, labor-intensive job, and they need to make sure that they are have the proper nutrition, they are in good health. And for us, it was about bringing food access to them. Once again, I mentioned about the rural mobile clinics. Here in this picture, you have an image of one of the mobile clinics that goes out to the fields. Clinic is Sierra Vista, but we have numerous healthcare providers that we work with that provide same services. But for us, it wasn't about the farm worker going to an offsite clinic. It is us bringing the resources to them. And this one being such a viable one. Something simple as checking your blood pressure, checking your heart, your lungs, your blood sugar, something that we as Americans truly have access to, but we take for granted. Farm workers don't always have that access and that time or the insurance to do so. So for us, it was so important to be able to bring these type of healthcare services to the fields. Big one, chronic illness. When you think about the top illness right now amongst farm workers that does not go treated or they're not aware of, never been checked up for, what comes to mind? Let me tell you what it is. It is actually a combination of high blood pressure and also diabetes. Diabetes, we know, is a very serious chronic illness. And the beauty about us is that we able to have the physicians on site to do testing, also to do prescriptions. Someone comes out with high numbers, we have a physician prescribe prescription, we have metformin, for the proper treatment that they need, but they get that care directly on site. For us, that's valuable. We're saving lives. From there, we onboard them with an appointment to do follow up with physicians or direct them to the proper care that they need. But chronic illness checks are something that we take very serious here at the foundation and ensure that we try to make our way around all of the areas that don't have access to these healthcare services. And what areas are you probably thinking of? Huron, 5 Points. We have outskirts of Pixley. We have outskirts of Bakersfield, Santa Maria Valley. We have Riverside, small rural areas outside of Madera that do not have access to clinics, hospitals, physicians. And so once again, we are bringing these mobile units on site. Another one too is vaccines, not just COVID-19, but general vaccines. We have the flu shots. We have children that need to go to school, need to be some vaccinated. We are able to offer those vaccines through our partnerships on site. Food distributions, we talked about this. What we realize is we didn't need a pandemic to identify how essential farm workers in our ag industry is. But there was one thing that we heard, and it was the lack of access to food, whether it's because of the area that they live, the markets, the grocery stores, the cost of living. So for us, it was about partnering with the local food banks to be able to provide fresh produce and access to food, bread, oranges, apples to families that were truly in need. We started back in the pandemic, and as you can see, how much we've truly grown as a foundation. This is on a yearly basis. So in 2021, it was over 300,000 pounds of fresh produce that we delivered to farm workers in the fields with a few community sites. In 2022, that almost tripled to 876,000 pounds of food. And in 2023, 920,000 pounds of food directly to farm workers going back to their families that are really making an impact for them, their home, and access to food. The pandemic, COVID-19, this is where really us as a foundation, we're really able to get boots on the ground. By this time, we were just a few years old. We were able to partner from the state with CDPH, also with local county health departments to really get COVID-19 under control. We all know that we need food. Food never stopped during the pandemic, nor the industry did. So we had to pivot to help support to keep our essential workers safe. During this time, we had PPE in total throughout the pandemic. I know it's still going on, but at the peak of it, we gave out over 1.1 million units of PPE. Testing, we tested over 250,000 farm workers, and that's once again at the peak of it. We're going into ag companies, working with them to ensure that we were testing their workers daily, making sure that the areas were deemed safe, they were following protocols, and that our farm workers were kept safe, especially if anyone was presenting any symptoms. We were able to help mitigate from those that weren't feeling well to those that were negative so that they can continue working and keep numbers down. When the vaccine came out, once again, working with healthcare providers to bring access to vaccines. The reality is, workers working long shifts, long hours, sometimes early mornings, late after hours, not being able to have the access to go to a clinic and get the vaccine if they wanted to. So for us, it was about bringing, once again, that direct access to the need. So as a whole, 50,000 vaccines were administered during COVID-19 through CFF with the help and support of our healthcare providers that we worked with. We also had an amazing partnership with the state, with CDPH. We had an incentive program that took place in 2022. We tested more than 25,000 farm workers during this time period. And the incentive was when they got tested, we were able to give them a $20 gift card to Target. Now, many of us don't think, what's $20 going to get us? Maybe a loaf of bread, some PB&J, but $20 goes a long way when you're having families of 5 come in to test, and now that $20 turned into $100. And so during this time period, through testing these 25,000 individuals in 2022, we were able as a foundation to give out more than $500,000 in gift card incentives. That's $500,000 back into people's homes, $500,000 back on people's tables. It was around the time where it was summer in school. Summer was ending, students were going back into school, and those dollars went a long way for food on their tables or perhaps some school necessities for their kids. So education and workforce development. What lies under this pillar of service are scholarships. We have financial literacy workshops. We have worksite trainings, and we also do industry-driven education. So as we mentioned before, the highlight for the foundation, we're proud to be able to give out scholarships. We realize that we need to support that next generation of students and also those that want to pursue a higher education. So scholarships have been a big one. We are known, our scholarship is the Nueva Generación, the new generation. And once again, we've been over the years been able to give out over 250,000 scholarships. We realized that a lot of farm workers through our needs assessment wanted to talk about financial literacy. How do they become more financially responsible? How do they even open up a checking, a savings account, invest for their future? So that's something that we heard, and we created a program to meet their needs. So providing financial literacy workshop has been something that we've started here in Kern and Tulare County to focus on, once again, our piggy bank, our savings, and how do we, continue to invest for farm workers and their families and their households. Worksite trainings and also industry. This is a big one for us. We always had that question is technology within the industry going to be replacing the labor force? And for us as a foundation is how do we get in front of that? And that's having conversations with growers, with ag workers, and also with farm workers, and realizing we need to bring a program that's going to help elevate the talent of farm workers. This is where we have certification programs like forklift driving, mechanics, welding, where we bring this workforce development, the opportunity to develop their skills and their talents. So we're really trying to think next level of, as technology is advancing within the industry, we need to help support to elevate the talent of farm workers. And that is something that we truly take pride in. And we are working right now on a grant to help work hand in hand with local community colleges to continue on this certification program. Last but not least, our third pillar of service, our civil assistance. This is where it falls into any kind of public benefit assistance program enrollment and also support, everything from CalFresh, Medi-Cal enrollment. We also have food stamps, immigration workshops. We work with a program called ELF, Education Leadership Program, that's based out of the Central Valley. That is, if anyone wants to talk about citizenship, DACA renewal, has a question about their status, we work hand in hand with ELF to provide that assistance to ensure that if anybody does have questions about any of those 3 areas, that we would be able to provide that resource for them. Something new that came out that we're hearing, we've all heard about it, hopefully not been a victim of it, but fraud prevention. We work with the population that is so vulnerable. A lot of them is, the language linguistics, the not understanding, and sometimes being taken advantage of. So for us, it was bringing awareness to, what fraud looks like, what you should and should be, hearing for, looking out for. So for us right now, that has been a focus that just started this year in 2024 about fraud prevention workshops. How do we as a foundation differentiate from everybody else? But we empower the voice of farm workers. We do this actually by doing needs assessments. So we go out every few years and we take needs assessments. This is directly coming from farm workers. When we provide a resource, we provide a program, information, it's always because it's come from the voice and the mouth of farm workers. So our needs assessment happens in 4 phases. The first one is we conduct a work plan of how we're going to select the areas in which we're going, the companies, the farm workers, the needs assessment, and we collaborate and create a work plan. Phase 2 is actually going out into the fields and taking collection of data. So we're talking with each farm worker, and there is a sheet that they're filling out, and they return back to us. So it's not us ever telling them what we think they need, but instead it's what they tell us what they need. And so from all that information, the surveys that we collect, phase 3 happens, and it's our data analysis. We could then collect all that information and we gather information to tell us more or less what are our top needs of farm workers right now. I know we get consumed by media. We get consumed what we as humans think and feel, and we think we know what farm workers truly need. But for us as a foundation, it's truly hearing from the farm workers themselves of what it is that we can do to support and provide that need, a solution, a program, and how to be a viable resource for them. So phase 4 is what leads us into creating the programs, a resource. Maybe we have something already implemented. They just didn't have awareness, information about it. We're able to bring that information back. Something that we heard back in the Central Valley was actually women wanted to, fitness was a top need, but women did not feel comfortable enough going to a gym. So what we did to create something fun, a safe environment where, they can still receive that fitness, their health, but also feel safe and comfortable, is we created Zumba classes. So we hired a Zumba instructor that actually happened to be a farm worker. Her name is Margarita, and she also provides Zumba classes. And you should see these women when they're in the class and having fun. But once again, it's hearing their need and CFF providing and creating a solution for it. In our top recent survey that we just did in our Santa Barbara County and Santa Maria Valley specifically, this is what the top needs just came out. This was here just recently, a few years back. And you can see, if you could probably ask someone, what are top needs of farm workers? I don't even think anybody would guess the first 2, maybe even the first one. And you can see there what information and what data came from the surveys that we collected. It was kind of a surprise to us that, 46% said that ESL classes were their top needs. ESL stands for, English as a second language. And what was so different in Santa Maria Valley is that we're not only dealing with the population that speaks Spanish, but we have an indigenous population that speak Mixteco, indigenous, Alto, and Bajo. So we had some other language barriers and linguistics that we heard from individuals that said, those that spoke Mixteco wanted to learn Spanish. And those individuals that spoke Spanish, of course, wanted to then take the next level to learn English. So ESL came as the top need at 46%. You see there at 33% rental assistance, at 28% women's and men's health, 26 being childcare, and then that food insecurity coming in at number 5 at 25%. So as an example of this data, what does CFF do next? After we've heard from farm workers, we see their top needs. This is what we do next. We then do our next steps. So from those top needs, we create an outline plan of how we can provide programs, resources, or the collaboration. If we already have an existence with the program, how do we bring that to them? So here are some viable solutions. So ESL classes, we began working with community colleges. We had staff members that actually had a degree in Spanish that began internally bringing some ESL classes on a weekly basis for those individuals. For rental assistance, I wish we had, millions of dollars to provide, checks to farm workers to help provide this. But there are programs that we do have in place to help bring down their bills. One of them being with PG&E. to help save on their energy bills, their electricity, and the costs, bring that down. For women's and men's health, we talked about health being a priority. Once again, it's about bringing those mobile units, bringing that healthcare access directly to them through on-site wellness checks and also mobile units. For childcare, in every area, there's a different need for childcare. Here in the Valley, because of the heat, especially down in Coachella Valley, where you're dealing with 115 plus, the Valley here, it's anywhere from 100, 100 and 10, 15 as well. Childcare continues to be a top need. And the reality is this, because of the heat, especially during summer, farm workers have to go in earlier. Childcare normally starts about 7 a.m. to about 4 or 5, even 6 p.m. But the childcare programs that are in place right now don't really relate to the scheduled program of farm workers. So what's happening? Parents are leaving their children with their older children. They're leaving their kids with family relatives, because there really isn't a true program that's helping tailor to the need of taking care of their kids while farm workers are at work. So at large, we are still working on this of how do we create a program, or to provide a solution to this need of childcare and more childcare programs, to help support with the ag industry and help support the schedule and the timing for farm workers. And last but not least, food insecurity. I talked about what we've been doing in the past and currently still doing, working with food banks throughout the state to help provide food access, and providing that fresh produce to farm workers. So these are viable examples of, after we collect that information, we collect the data, bringing those solutions, those resources to farm workers. Some other information about what we are achieving as a small yet mighty little foundation. We had the opportunity to be a collaborator on a USDA worker relief program. That was a $600 stimulus check to farm workers and individuals that worked within the food industry. At large, last year, we gave out $6.1 million to farm workers. That calculated out to 10,300 farm workers throughout the state that received this stimulus check. Once again, when we talk about those top needs that we just saw, rent relief was one of them. This $600 can go to rent and went to food, paying the bills. And some individuals said, we're saving for a rainy day. That $600 went a long way, and we were able to register farm workers. This collaboration was with United Way of Fresno Madera and also Santa Maria. So we literally took it to the work sites. We took it to the fields. We worked with ag companies to ensure that workers were receiving their stimulus checks. It took a process, but as a whole, to be able to give back $6.1 million was an incredible feeling for a foundation that only serves in 6 counties with 30 staff members, and at large being able to give back that kind of money. It speaks volumes. So besides the resources, besides the programs, what else do we do to help provide a positive experience to farm workers? We host an annual pruning contest, something that most of us don't think about, pruning. I know we all love grapes, table grapes, and also wine grapes, but table grapes. And so here in the Valley, this contest started 3 years ago, and we wanted to put to the test who was the female and male champion of pruning contests. Winners get prizes, cash prizes, awards. And I can tell you there's a lot of competitive individuals in the Valley. And so this year we did a little spin-off. We also did top female and male, and also top company team at large. So here are some pictures of some of the contest individuals that took place from the female division, the male division, and also there in the center, we have our top first, second, and third from each category. And in the right there, we want to congratulate Grapery. They had the overall highest scoring team. This is just a great way to showcase the talent of what it takes to prune. A lot of us, if you drive by any kind of vineyards, you see leaves, but do you really understand what it takes to grow and produce a grape to get it to our tables? And so for us, it was about highlighting the skill set, the talent that it takes. This is a timed event. They usually have within a few minutes to prune a section. We have judges that come out from the educational level, the state levels to judge. It is a very intense competition, but for us, it's truly a fun activity and a fun event to showcase the talent of farm workers for the work that they do. Another event that we do is we love to celebrate our mothers and our fathers, but there is something so special about honoring our farm working mothers. As we know, they work in an 8, sometimes 9-hour day. They come home, have to attend to the family, their husband, do house chores, cook, clean, and begin the same thing the next day. So for us, it's been a tradition about honoring the women that are farm workers. We go out, we provide them food, we honor them with roses. In some counties, we've brought them mariachi in the fields, we've brought them live music, but this has been near and dear to our heart to go out to the fields and say thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for being a mom. Thank you for what you do. And it's just an honor. And as you can see, all the faces here and all the individuals that we touch. And every year we reach about 1,500 female farm workers that are moms, their grandmas, their sisters, and we get to say thank you on behalf of CFF for the work that they do. We talked about resource fairs. This is one that we do also annually. It's called Dia de la Familia. We host them in all the 6 counties in which we serve. So for us, this is a huge health resource fair that we get to bring to local communities. Once again, in Fresno, Madera, we go to small towns of Pixley, Rich Grove, Santa Maria, Riverside. So we bring the resource fair, we bring the party. It's a day of the family. That's what Dia de la Familia means. So we bring music, entertainment, kids' activities, but the biggest one of them all is we bring one place where they can house all of the resources that farm workers needs that falls within our pillars of, health and wellness, education, the civil assistance, anything that's a program or resource, and that's key here, rendered free of charge. All that we do and we collaborate with all the programs, it has to be rendered free of charge. So this is an event that's at no cost to farm workers, all of the resources, all the information. And it's a day that they get to come out, they hang out, they listen to some music, there's bands, there's mariachi, get to have some good food, all while being able to also receive some great information and awareness about programs that are in their area that maybe they weren't aware of, didn't know where to get information, or didn't know where to go. We bring it to them. So Dia de la Familia is a hit. Stay tuned. Our next one is going to be in September in Santa Maria Valley. So these are some of the events besides that we do, as I mentioned, with Mother's Day, we have the Familia, but we also do a lot of community engagement. We have some workshops that we do. We have a lot of fairs, educational fairs that we're a part of that we get asked to be invited to. And then additional events that we get to be involved of as a Farmworker Foundation to help support our communities. I always love to put this at the end. Stay connected with us. You have our QR code there. We have some social media. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. I also posted there our website, www.californiafarmworkers.org, so that way you can continue to stay connected, learn more about us, and see what we're truly doing on the day-to-day.
Thank you so much, Diana. Let's get a question or two in. And if you'll stop sharing, I'll introduce the people that we've got on the recording. Folks, when I call your names, just wave at the camera. So Rory in Texas, Cecilia in Italy, I'm in San Jose. Diana, a question that came in over the chat is about your funding. So tell us a little bit about the different funding sources that the CFF has in its programs.
Sure. So we right now are about an 80-20, where 80% that comes in is grant related. So 80% of the funding that we comes in from grants, whether that be at the local level, corporate level, or also at a state level. And then we have that small percent of 20 that comes in through what we call our private donation. So online, we have a fundraiser event. So that's what that split looks like. But majority of our funding that comes in, we operate at about a $2.1 million foundation. And like I said, about 80% of it comes in through grants. The beauty about grants is that those are direct initiatives that we register for when we're going through this process of going through grants. So when we do grants, it does align with our initiatives and our focus. It's a lot of them right now are health and education driven, but once again, as a foundation, we do need support that are funds that are not allocated directly through grants to continue doing the work that we do So that once again, that 20% that we operate on from funds that are non-restricted allow us to do the additional items. But once again, yeah, 20% of our funding comes in directly from grants or
And,
restricted funding.
all right, yeah, yeah. And my encountering you was in Huron with the work you're doing with the schools at the time. One of our previous speakers, Vahid Motazedian of the Wings of Knowledge Initiative, and the work that he and folks are doing. Is there a connection between students doing really innovative projects and the kinds of scholarship programs that CFF runs?
So part of our Nueva Generación program, it's two parts as a scholarship, and then we also do internships. So kind of help bridge that gap as well to what students and next generation, what projects they want to encounter, what next skill sets, experience that they want to gain. So for us, it's once again the listening to what students and that next generation, what they want to get involved in and support with. So once again, that's where really the key component of the internship comes in. And it's been across the board. It's been, working with irrigation companies, ag companies, banking, if someone wants to go into financing, but it's helping to support that area of focus for projects for students as well, along with these scholarships.
Well, wonderful material. Thank you so much. We'll wind things down. Those of you who joined us for this program, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you spending time looking to get inspired by the really cool work organizations like the California Farmworker Foundation are doing. And we hope that you will find opportunities to support their work or the work of similar organizations in your area. If you are joining us at SiliconValleyRotary.com and see our meeting page, go to the bottom and leave a message at the Discuss, DISQUS section, and let us know you were here. We appreciate being able to connect with you in that way. Additionally, if you are watching this on our YouTube channel or via our podcast channels, then feel free to leave comments there. We hope that you will share what you learn in this and other of our hundreds of recordings with those who are also motivated by finding interesting ways to help communities. As we always like to do, we hand it back to our speaker for the final word. Diana, what would you like people to have clearly in mind as they finish the podcast or video?
Well, we would like to thank everybody for joining in, tuning in. I want to leave it with this. Where would we be without our ag industry? Where would we be without our farmers? But the reality is, where would we be without our essential workers, the backbone of our industry, the people that truly feed us, feed our tables, and feed our families? And I always say, when you pass by a field, when you go to the grocery store, have an appreciation of agriculture, but have an appreciation of the hands that truly led that food to be at the grocery store that further lead to your tables. Please think of farm worker, and there is a lot more needs that farm workers need and solutions. And we, as the California Farm Worker Foundation, are honored to be able to do the work that we do, to be able to reach the farm workers, to truly make a difference in their lives. And I will say this, we need the continued support to make the difference in their lives. So for any questions, please go to our website at www.californiafarmworkers.org. You can also call our hotline number, 559-710-2000. We are here to make a difference with all of your support with our community and our state, because at the end of the day, we need farm workers to survive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you next week.